Ryan Bartkiewicz is a rising entrepreneur, growth strategist, and content creator who successfully turned relatability into a massive media tech engine. He is best known as the co founder of Bogey Boys, a viral golf media brand, and Scratch AI, a tech app positioning him right at the intersection of creator led business, community building, and digital distribution. What started as a casual TikTok channel capturing the humorous reality of the average golfer quickly exploded into a social media powerhouse, pulling in over 100 million views and 600,000 followers. But Ryan's real genius wasn't just going viral, it was realizing that relying on social media algorithms is a dangerous game. To build an algorithm proof empire, he and his team executed the ultimate creator playbook. They migrated that viral traffic into a private newsletter via Beehive that has scaled to over 220,000 subscribers, unlocking a massive recurring revenue engine. Today, Ryan takes those exact lessons in scale and applies them to the software world. Through Scratch AI and his growth consulting, his core philosophy is simple: distribution and marketing outweigh the product itself. In this episode, we'll be talking to Ryan directly about how he went from making TikToks to running a multi layered media and tech engine. Ryan, welcome to the show.
What's going on, Owen? Thank you for having me. That was a great intro. So appreciate all the flowers.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. We're on like episode 18, so I'm starting mixing it up a little bit now that we have
Yep.
enough of a ground framework laid out. But I wanted to talk to you about your journey. What are you working on today?
Yeah. So the biggest business going on today that I have my hands in is Scratch AI, which you were talking about, which is a golf app. So whoever's golfed, I'm sure they're aware of what a caddy is. So essentially, it's an AI caddy in on your phone in your pocket. So when you're golfing on the golf course, you have club recommendations from anywhere on the course, any hole, and it's basically just letting you know like this is the best shot you should be using right now. And if you use it, we've gotten some good feedback that people are actually shooting lower scores. So that's been the biggest project that I've been investing a good chunk of my time in.
Incredible. How are you growing that app?
Yeah, so I can kind of give the backstory of kind of how we launched and kind of our thesis to why we built the app in general. So I'll kind of take it a little back a couple years ago. So long story short, me and one of my co-founders of Scratch AI, we started a golf TikTok account back when I was a sophomore in college. He was also a sophomore in college. He went to school in Pennsylvania. I was up in Boston, and we've always been pretty entrepreneurial at the heart. You know, the clothing businesses in high school, the drop shipping to the socks and flipping and all that stuff. But we saw that there was a little section where people weren't really utilizing golf on social media, and TikTok was just taking off. So we were like, this is the perfect time to kind of get in into TikTok. And we had worked at a golf course all throughout high school, and then the first year in college. So we were like, we already have all this access to the golf course we can get on for free. We already worked there, so we're like, let's just start posting golf content. And slowly but surely, we were able to amass a decent sized following in the golf community, have a little over 650,000 followers across channels now. And we kind of came to the realization that, like, when I'm 30 years old, I don't really want to be going to the golf course, making videos like skip videos. And I was just like, there's got to be something we can utilize this channel for, because brands pay us money to post and use our audience. We do UGC and all that stuff. And we were like, what's something that's unique that like no one has done before in the golf world? People have done the merch and all that stuff. And we've never been big fans of merch just because you have to slang a lot of volume for a low margin. So we were like, what if we just kind of figured out a novel golf concept and made it into an app? And that's kind of when Scratch AI was born. And we started developing it a little over a year last April. So a year and 2 months. And then we launched it in mid October of this previous year. So it's been 7 months since we launched, and it's probably one of the best decisions I think we've utilized our channel for.
Wow, that's incredible. So you actually started the first thing you did was get traction on social media. And then you started doing a little bit of UGC. Were you doing
Mhm.
ads in your videos organically, or were you just making paid ads for brands?
Yeah, so we work with brands in kind of a couple different ways, but one of the ways is through which you're super familiar with this stuff, but making ads for brands that they run as an ad either from our Instagram handle or just for using our name and our likeness to help promote their product.
Incredible. What are you doing now that you have that skill set of UGC? How is that influencing Scratch and how you're growing it now?
Yeah, definitely. So it's funny because me and my co-founder Boogie was we've talked about this for a while, but we've never been big social media people. Like I wish I could just throw my phone out and be like totally off the grid, but like in reality, if you want to scale an online business, you kind of just like need to be in on what's going on and you just like need to get pretty good at social media to some degree. So we've been kind of able to take a lot of our findings with what's worked with Bogey Boys and applied that with Scratch on the whole marketing, advertising, UGC end, where these are the things that have worked well for brands we've worked with. Let's try and do it with Scratch. So we've kind of built up a couple years of learning, working with brands of like, all right, this works, this doesn't work. We can do this in 10 minutes if we want to film it. We can take another 20 minutes to edit it, and boom, we have a new creative. So Bogey Boys has acted as a nice little launching pad to get to Scratch where it's at today.
You talked about merch a little bit, but you
Hmm.
went the other direction building a software app. What's been the hardest reality check of transitioning from a creator media guy to a full-on tech founder?
Yeah, I mean, I am not technical, so I've been kind of learning on the fly. But we have a team of four, so it's me, my co-founder at Bogey Boys, and then two other guys, one software engineer, CTO, and then another guy who's on product. So thankfully, I haven't had to be too in the weeds technical wise, but I've definitely learned a lot over the past year in terms of launching an app, building an app, all of the back end stuff, attribution, where people downloading the app from, and all that good stuff. So, kind of just learning on the fly. And I think that's one of the best ways to do it is you kind of just do it and you learn and you're going to make mistakes, but you're going to learn from those mistakes. So that's kind of been the biggest way I've been transitioning from, media to somewhat of technical software, etc.
What matters more to you, product or distribution?
So I personally think that distribution is the biggest moat that you can put yourself in. Obviously, if you have a terrible product, it can only get so far. But if you have a decent product with great distribution, you will just see some signs of success because at the end of the day, right now, if you can get people's attention and you can get their time and they can watch a video or see something about your app or your merch or your product or whatever it is, that has seemed like it's a lot more important than the product itself because there's so many products and apps out there that are perfect apps. There's a million apps that are better than our app. But on the other side, they can't get the eyeballs, they can't get the distribution down. So it's like you're building this great app for what? Because no one's going to look at it and no one's going to see it. So I think at the end of the day, I think distribution and marketing is the biggest moat right now. I think 5 years ago, it was a little more of the software engineering, et cetera. But now um, people are just getting a lot more fluent with the technology where anyone can spin up an app, it seems like nowadays, but it's really the marketing distribution channel that's going to carry it to actually be successful in the long term.
If someone has a great product but absolutely zero audience right now, what is their day one priority in terms of starting their growth engine? Like what would you do from zero?
Yeah, if I were going from zero with a great app, and ideally there was probably no cash on hand, I would, and I've talked about this to a bunch of people, but I would utilize TikTok slideshows. I think that's one of the best ways to go viral and get eyeballs on your app. We did that even pre-launch before we started utilizing Bogey Boys to plug Scratch AI. So about 2 months prior to launching Scratch AI, we actually built up a wait list of a little over 5,000 people strictly from TikTok slideshows. Didn't post about it a single time on Bogey Boys. We would post anywhere from 3 to 6 slideshows a day, and we probably had 4 or 5 accounts ripping at the same time. Um, so I think that's one of the best ways to get users onto an app, and we still do the TikTok slideshows. Like it's a proven method; it works, and I think you can kind of do that in any niche when you're building an app from 0 to 1.
Perfect. What would be your favorite channel in terms of growth for a consumer app in 2026?
I think I think TikTok is a very good way to drive eyeballs and to drive traction and to get shares and to get momentum. Um, you can also, with, like faceless content, you can make it from anywhere. So you're not like actually going out and creating it. Like we would make all these slideshows right off Chat GPT, and then we would download, like we make 50 different versions of an image, and we would just like recycle and cycle those through different types of slideshows, which worked pretty well for us. Um, yeah, I mean, you can make them in 5, 10 minutes maybe, and you can utilize that for, as long as possible, because you can also, like, cut different slideshows up and, like, make a new creative from other existing creatives you already had, and then you can kinda ping pong back and forth, so it's not a huge time sink, and it's more of just, like, you know what you need to do, you just have to post a lot of volume, and you gotta, like, figure out what types of, creatives actually do well and drive downloads.
Super interesting that you're doing slideshows primarily. I've had a few apps. Slideshows did convert the worst. However, they're so repeatable and easy to
Mhm.
make that it's almost worth doing them. I think most
Yeah.
people should probably do them to some degree. In terms of influencers, are you guys doing anything with influencers or UGC creators? And maybe you could kind of explain the difference there for people who don't know.
Yeah. So in terms of influencers, we haven't done a huge batch of outreach for influencers specifically. Part of that is because we're able to utilize Bogey Boys, which at the end of the day, you could call it as an influencer. So we're able to kind of tap into the existing audience of Bogey Boys. I mean, it's two of our co-founders, so we're like, obviously we're going to do it because that was one of the theses when we launched the product, was let's use this distribution channel to market. I think in the next month or two we're definitely going to ramp up with influencers and, giving them unique codes and, doing the whole affiliate slash CPM model. And then UGC, I also think, is a huge part. And those for UGC is user generated content. So having influencers make videos for us to run as paid ads, I also think will be great, because me and my co-founder, we can only be on the golf course so many days of the month and making so many creatives. So once we kind of get that flywheel moving and we kind of outreach to some more creators, that's definitely something we're going to be doing in the next month, 2 months, especially during golf season.
Is there a downside to having too much content going out around Scratch, either from a single account or in general?
I don't think there's ever really a quote unquote bad thing about it. I mean, there will be some people that'll be like, all right, like I've seen this so many times, et cetera, et cetera. But that person complaining about it is also, they're also thinking about the product. So like they're indirectly being like stop talking about Scratch AI, but they're like speaking it into existence where they're gonna internally think about Scratch AI. Um, so I don't necessarily think there's ever like a bad thing about having a bunch of content out there. That's kind of been one of our mottos, is just volume, volume, volume. And we've done that as a playbook with Bogey Boys. In the beginning, we would post 5 times a day when we were trying to get the channel engagement and get us scaled up a little bit. But we've always been a volume team game where it's like, let's just figure out the best video and post them right away, because the more you post, ideally, the more likely you are to have a video do well, because you're just throwing darts at an algorithm at the end of the day.
You guys almost went backwards from a traditional product market fit. Usually people think that they can solve a problem and then they go out and try to build a product to fit that market. What you guys did was create entertaining content and made content market fit. Started with the content, knew what videos would go viral, and then plugged in a product that's extremely scalable, a consumer app, into that content. Talk a little bit about that process. Like, did you guys have any idea that this is how you would monetize early on? Or did you simply just want to go out there and make entertaining content?
So yeah, I mean, great question. We've talked about this many times. When Bogey Boys started, it was, it's not that it was a means to an end, but we knew long term that we didn't want to, make golf content for the next 20 years. We could go down the YouTube route and, make long form videos, but at the end of the day, me and my co-founder were not like great golfers, like at all. We're like the most relatable average golfers there is out there. So we were like, let's just build up this audience and then we'll figure it out in some due time of what we're going to do with it, how we want to go long term. And we were kind of just right at the intersection where we had a couple friends that were also building apps that we were very close with, and it kind of just like made sense to work backwards from distribution to product. And like I was saying earlier, we were like, we wanted to do something different and novel and stand out and not do the whole merch. Like there's golf creators that, buy a golf course or will host golf tournaments. Well, they'll do merch, they'll do an alcohol, etc. And we were like, no one's actually done a software product, especially a consumer app. And we were like, let's be the first ones. Let's figure out a quote unquote novel idea in the market. And that was an AI caddy. And that was our biggest kind of value add. And we were like, let's build it and let's launch it as quickly as possible.
I love that. In terms of what you guys are, how you're differentiating your content strategy right now on Bogey Boys,
Mhm.
are you trying to grow most of the time and then you're selling a little bit of the time? How does that split kind of look in terms of your content strategy?
Yeah, so I'd say it's pretty split. So still operating Bogey Boys as itself as Bogey Boys, but then at the same time having fresh content, talking about promoting Scratch just in a natural, organic way. So one of our content pieces that we do on Bogey Boys is like golf skits. So it's relatable golf skits like POV, you're golfing with a bad golfer, the golfer's running late, etc. And then we'll figure out ways to weave in Scratch into those skits. So it still seems like our existing content, but Scratch is mentioned for, anywhere from like 2 to 8 seconds, but it's very naturally integrated into the video. So it doesn't really take away from our content in general. So we're also still working with brands on the side, but we're also plugging Scratch too.
What's your top 1 to 2 formats if you had to get a million views today that you would recommend people try?
On Bogey Boys or for promoting Scratch?
Um, just to go get a million views, I would say probably with the intention of converting users, not just purely for views, because I don't think
Mhm.
views is purely the best metric. Obviously, we all care about
Yeah.
making sure that we can go out and golf and have fun without having to worry about
Mhm.
money. So I would think probably converting
Yeah.
would be most important.
I would say one kind of area that's worked really well for us is the more informational the video is, usually the better the conversion is from view to download or just even from view to follower. So couple like slideshows that have worked really well for us in the past are like, here are the 5 best ways to get better at golf. And the tips are like super like dialed in on like this is what you need to do, etc. So people are like, all right, I'm like invested in this. Let me save it, let me share it, let me like it. And we would weave in Scratch to one of those 5 tips. So it'd be like step number one, like stand close to the ball. Step number two, like slow your backswing. And then like step number three would be like use an AI caddy. You can check out Scratch A on the App Store, yada yada yada. So I think the more informational, usually the higher intent the viewer is because they're already investing time into potentially getting better at something. And that's when you hit them with the call to action.
Are you guys doing any converting content on long form as well, not just slideshows and short form?
Not currently any long form. It's been primarily short form at up to date right now. I think long form we will get into at some point in time. I think we're just hammering short form right now just because it's been working for us right now. But long form, long term, I think we definitely will dabble in a little bit.
How many users is Scratch at right now?
So have we had our biggest month last month. I think we brought in 15 to 20,000 people into the app last month in May. I mean, a lot of it too is seasonality. So like for example, we launched in October ideally, and I'm sure you know this with developers, but like you always want to launch like as fast as possible. You have the idea, it's like, all right, let's launch tomorrow. Like we know what we need to do. Yeah, yeah. We launched basically out of season in October, which up here in New England, not a lot of people are golfing come October, November time. So we're starting to see the rides of the seasonality of the actual app where, March was bigger than February, April was bigger than March, May was bigger than April. So everything's like kind of coming together at the same time where the app's getting better. We're getting better at marketing. We have better funnels, and there's just more golf interest in general right now because it's warmer out and people want to get outside and people want to golf because it's really starting to move into like peak summertime, which is also peak golf time.
So true. Seasonality apps for consumer have crazy booms and busts. I saw this
Mhm.
last year with the tanning app. One of my friends had a tanning app, and they ran it for 3 months, and it absolutely ripped.
Yeah.
But they, and then I was like, "How's the app going?" It's like, "Oh, we're not pushing it anymore. Summer's done." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, I thought you still would, but it was funny.
Right.
You and
Yeah. I
Jake,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, going to that point, a quick tangent. One thing we found in the off seasons, January, February, December, was you needed to be on the golf course to use the app, which obviously isn't a great thing because you want the retention to be as high as possible. Ideally, you want people coming using your app every single day. So what we did was we have the AI caddy, we have a bunch of stuff that you can do on the course, but then we also implemented a golf coach, which has all drills and everything you can do at home. So you're not totally inclined to get to a golf course and get outdoors because we were like, everyone's golfing maybe 2, 3 sometimes a week. I mean, some people golf like once a month. And we were just like, that just can't happen. We need some sort of stickiness off the course. So we were like, let's ship this update in the winter because we know that this will, long term, when we get to next winter, we'll already have something that's valuable off the course.
Makes a ton of sense. When you and Jake were building Bogey Boys, he's also the co-founder for Scratch, right?
Yep. Yep. He's part of the
So
team. Yep.
so usually, especially younger guys, finding the right co-founder is a huge struggle.
Mhm.
What's a secret that you guys have, that had like that made your co-founder relationship actually survive the scaling phase for both of these
Mhm.
products?
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Finding co-founders is arguably probably the most important part of a business. If you don't have good co-founders and you can't trust your co-founders, the business is never going to succeed. It's never going to scale. You're going to have problems in the future. So funny enough, Jake and I actually grew up together in the same hometown, and our family was very close. And you know how it goes. Like you really never want to like be a business partner with like one of your best friends or close family friends just because God forbid something happens and the whole it just is like a whole thing. But I think one of the reasons why companies are successful is because at the end of the day they have good co-founders. I think it really just boils down to are the incentives aligned and can you trust this person and are they going to do their work and are they a hard worker? It also
Mhm.
helps that me, Jake, and then another one of the co-founders at Scratch. We all live together here in New York City in the same apartment where we know what's going on. We're always together. So I think that's been a big superpower for us is that the work really never stops, even though it doesn't feel like work. Like we'll be at the living room table, we'll be sitting down, we'll be talking about work at 11 p.m., but it feels like we're just hanging out. So I guess kind of long-winded answer to your question is I think if the incentives are aligned, you can trust them and they're a hard worker. I think those are kind of the three biggest pillars when choosing a co-founder and when picking, this is the right person for the job and this isn't the right person for the job.
I just saw one of your recent videos that said that
Mhm.
losses are greater than wins when it comes to entrepreneurship. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think it's definitely arguably one of the most important things when you're an entrepreneur just starting out. I started trying to do businesses when I was, 15, 16 years old. The drop shipping, the clothing company in high school, selling socks in high school, flipping shoes, all the above. And I think you get a lot of taste when you fail and you learn the most when you fail. I think someone who doesn't fail at all is actually the most not insecure, but the most sensitive to change. And if the company isn't doing well, they're going to be a lot more mentally down. Whereas when you have these losses, you learn from them because all it really takes at the end of the day is if you can have one, two, three companies do well in your lifetime, you'll probably be pretty good with your life. But in order to get those one, two, three wins, you're going to need 20, 30, 40 losses. And those losses, no one's going to talk about, no one's going to hear about them because why would they? They're only going to hear about the success stories. So I've always been a big proponent on failing and failing fast and just like knowing when to pivot and knowing when to go all in. And Bogey Boys to the Scratch AI pipeline has kind of been a good transition for us where it's like, all right, this is going to work and we're going to make it work because we've done all this before and we've learned all this before and let's just apply it here.
I have so many things I want to get into there. In terms
Hmm.
of the losses not being known, this is the case for everyone that, we look up to, or, people really
Yeah.
know in entrepreneurial space. Guys like Zuckerberg, he's
Hmm.
come out with many features, or, side project, like the metaverse failed.
Yep.
But when you think of Zuckerberg, you think Meta, Facebook, success,
Right.
dominant. You never think about the failures, or Poke, like their
Hmm.
Snapchat things they did and stuff like that. Um, so it's just so interesting because everyone has to be in the arena, take as many swings as they can, and just live with those results. Once you get through all the negatives, you'll learn enough and you'll accumulate enough over time that you will be known for whatever it is that you do. So that's
100%, 100%. Couldn't agree more. That also goes, and sorry if I'm cutting you off. I
now
just
here.
thought of something else now too. That also goes with like social media nowadays. Like it is tough growing up nowadays. All you see on social media is people making millions of dollars and all the materialistic and the successful things and everything. And me and you were pretty we weren't at the tip of like technology and social media, but like we definitely saw some of it. And I would remember when I was, like 18, 19, 20 in college and I saw these people online just making millions of dollars. I was like, oh my God, like either they got so lucky or that could never happen. But dive a little deeper and you're like, they've been doing this for 6 years. Like this just happened because they were putting in all the work prior. So everything on social media that you see on social media is just like 5% of what has like actually happened in the back end. Like they see, the 1 hour of the day where they're driving a nice car, but not the other 11 hours where they're behind a desk and a monitor, like plugging numbers on, ads manager or trying to scale a business or whatever it may be.
And pulling their hair out for years,
Right.
losing
Right.
everything multiple times. I think that
Hmm.
was a lot of times people get what they want in this space and it turns out to not be what they wanted and they change and do something different. Even so, even when you can be successful, a lot of people are like, well, that's not even the life that I wanted, that I built for
Right.
myself.
Right.
So it's always tons of ups and downs. So I love that.
Hmm.
In terms of Scratch and your general goals for where you guys are going, what is the end goal? Is it a consumer app short term? Is it a entire golf platform long term? Is it just a massive media and distribution company? Like, where do you see it going? Is it a vertical integration of all of those different things?
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of figure out, 5 years from now, we kind of go like, month by month. 'Cause as you know, things change so quickly, especially being a business owner and entrepreneur. Like something will just like happen 1 month and that'll change the whole trajectory of the business. I think for right now, I think we're really doubling down on having Scratch become a very notable consumer app in the golf space. And I think we're going to continue to kind of rip this playbook where it's like, distribution pipelined into software product because software products obviously can be sold at the end of the day. Like it'd be more difficult to go and get acquired Bogey Boys because Jake and I are the brand basically, but there's obviously ways to do that. But with Scratch AI and you got a strategic, buyer, you're talking, 8 to 10x multiple on revenue. Like that, those are the things that it's like if you're gonna like do something like swing big. So I think we're really doubling down on becoming that notable consumer golf app that has been pretty novel because in the golf space, it's the same thing with the PGA and like live coming in. The golf space is very like old per se, and there hasn't been a new player in a long time. There's kind of been 5 to 6 GPS apps that have kind of dominated the market for the past 10 years. So we're excited to kind of finally be, one that actually might stick in the long term and kind of disrupt this industry a little bit.
Really good. Really good. A few things there in terms of acquisition. We talked earlier. You believe that distribution is harder than product now. We just saw
Mhm.
TBPN get acquired by OpenAI for $100 million. So the value from Bogey Boys or from a production company or some combination of the two could be to some company. Maybe it's the PGA, maybe it's
Mhm.
some massive platform. Is the fact that you have a audience that trusts and loves you guys, and if an audience a brand could either go and pay for ads, pay for the whole thing, run it all themselves, or they can just go to you, who already has built that entire distribution channel out for them.
Right.
So there is huge potential to get acquired in that space, especially as distribution becomes more and more of a moat over time,
Mhm.
especially as AI increases and people are looking for more real people to connect with. So I think you guys have great potential there. In terms of your personal story, you played college soccer. Tell me about being like a 15-year-old kid growing up in the Northeast and getting to this point today. Like, tell me how that looked for you year by year, different paths that you took, what was on your mind, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, definitely. So kind of going back into, I would say, high school. I kind of always knew that, like, I got good grades, came from a great family, and all the 9 yards. I just kind of knew that long term, I couldn't see myself doing, the typical corporate route or kind of working, a normal job per se. So that was always kind of in the back of my head for, as long as I can remember. Played basketball and soccer in high school, and then played college soccer up in Boston for 2 years. And it kind of, after 2 years, it kind of got to me where I was like, I'm not enjoying this as much as I used to. And I kind of want to like get to the next chapter of my life. And that next chapter was just ideally business. And I had worked at Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, and financial advisory as an internship my junior year of college during the summer in Boston. And we were also building out Bogey Boys at the same time. So it was wake up at 5 a.m., hit the gym, go to work until 7, get home at 7:30, and then it was working out Bogey Boys till 1, 2 in the morning, and did that for basically 4 months straight of getting like 4 to 5 hours of sleep. But that's what it takes. Like that was like the grind mode, and those are some of the best times in entrepreneurship is going from 0 to 1 and like really falling in love with the process. And after concluding that summer with that internship, like in the corporate environment, I was like, I just can't see myself doing this long term. Like, I want to do something special. I want to have control of my time, my freedom, and I want to be able to, when it's nice out, go outside and go for a walk or go for a run, or long term be there for my kids' soccer game, basketball games, or whatever it may be. So I think after that summer was a pretty big turning point for me, where I was like, I'm going all in. Like, this is just has to work. It's either this or nothing. And we were able to take Bogey Boys full time. I'm very grateful to take it full time right after graduation in 2023 in May. And that was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. I think the pipeline with realizing that, all right, I've done soccer for my entire life, but I'm ready for the next chapter. And then really kind of going in and being like, it's either now or never was probably one of my favorite things I've done. Um, and then once you get a taste of some type of win on your own, whether that be a business or whatever it may be, it's hard to look back and be like, "All right, yeah, I wanna go back," because you kinda just, like, get the scent and you're like, "Let's go, go, go." Like, it'd be very hard to get me in a corporate job right now because at the end of the day, the best thing that money buys is your time and freedom, and being able to wake up and be like, "This is how I'm gonna spend my day. I'm gonna go to the gym at this time. I'm gonna eat lunch at this time. I don't need to ask for PTO. I can go, travel when I want, see my parents, siblings whenever I want." I think that's been the biggest blessing is the control of time.
I had the exact same story. I was in
Mhm.
my junior year of college. I had an internship.
Yeah.
Unlike you, I didn't get great grades. I was playing Fortnite professionally my first 2 years
Yeah.
of college, so there's no way I was going to get like a good GPA. I had like a 3.1. So I had
Mhm.
a sales internship, and I would get up, I'd go to the gym 5 a.m., go to the internship, do that all day, come home, try to like walk and be healthy after. And I was
Mhm.
like, no way on earth this is going to be my life. I don't, it's just
Yeah.
impossible.
Right.
Um, ironically, we probably work now more than we did then even.
Yeah, but it,
What is
it
your
doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't feel like your work at all. It
Yeah.
does feel like play, and it's actually a much better alternative. Instead of just being, some cog in the wheel in some business, you are actually providing value to a bunch of golfers, whether that's through entertainment or it's through an
Mhm.
app, which is actually improving their game. This is a much greater effect, and this is why I love entrepreneurship because you have a much bigger reach and effect on the world that is positive, and that's why it doesn't feel like work because it is truly a blessing to be able to do it. In terms of your structure, how did your structure go from being a college athlete, everything's very regimented in terms of your
Mhm.
day-to-day activities, to now being your own boss? What does that look like day to day? How much of it is I feel like I should do this today versus this is what I'm laying out for myself to do? Like where do you give yourself movement?
Yeah, 100 very, very good question. I think being an athlete for as long as I can walk, I've definitely always been regimented, waking up early, kind of getting after the day, and that goes back to my parents, kind of raising me that way, and kudos to them, of course. And I think that's kind of stuck with me for, I mean, up to this day now, where it's like I'm very good in a routine, I feel like, where and I'm not saying I don't necessarily need a routine, but I feel like I am a little bit more productive with routine in mind, especially being a college athlete where everything is super regimented. Um, Obviously with being your own boss, there are trade-offs where like you can like go out on a Monday or Tuesday night and there's like no repercussions. I think everything is good in balance. And I think one thing that's really good with my group of friends here, especially in New York City. So I live with, there's five of us guys here in New York, and we are all business owners and we're all very connected. We all own parts of each other's business and we help each other out, etc. We've really been kind of the epitome of work hard, play hard. So it's like, you just kill the week, you like go as hard as you can during the week, and then your playtime, whenever it is, could be later in the week, could be on the weekend. You also go hard and you enjoy yourself because you almost earn those days off, but we're always working every single day. But you have a fun night, you go out, you go on a trip. But I think the as cliche as it sounds, the work hard, play hard motto has kind of been a pretty big structure for myself and then my other co-founders where if we're gonna lock in, we're gonna lock in. If we're gonna go out, we're gonna go out. And then if we're gonna travel, we're gonna travel. So it's been like that for the past couple of years. And I think that's been really helpful for a bunch of us, especially me, because I like getting after it day by day and then kind of figuring out like, all right, if I grind all of this, I can do this and kind of ping pong back and forth.
There's a quote that most men act don't die at 85, they die at 27. We just bury
Mm,
them at 85. And I
mm.
think it's from the lack of play. And, for you guys, it's going out, having fun, whatever.
Yeah.
For me, being back in California, I forget this. Like last year, I was very locked in for a long time. For my fun was purely working out, which is
Yep.
not really that fun for me. I mean, it's kind of something I do that's more fun than sitting at a desk.
Right. It's a
But,
mental thing too to work
but
out.
but being back home in Orange County, I've been snorkeling, going on hikes,
Hmm.
just
Yeah, I've
going to the
seen the
ocean.
fishing trips. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so that's fun for me, and
Right.
it's
Right.
changed. It resets your brain, rewires you, and gives you so much energy. It's a great reminder for what we should be doing. Um,
100%.
you had talked a little bit earlier about your family coming from a good family. I think your
Hmm.
dad played for St. John's as a baseball player.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. What a
Yes. Go
stud!
memory.
What a stud! Um, in terms of your upbringing, like what do you think helped you the most? I'll say personal experience and from friends of
Hmm.
mine. Having a great mom
Yep.
is extremely beneficial for entrepreneurs. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the confidence or the security or what, but talk about your upbringing and things that mattered a lot to you.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate enough to grow up in a big family. So I have a twin sister, I have a younger sister, and a younger brother. So there's four of us. And growing up, there's always been, someone to talk to and hang out with and kind of, go back and forth with on ideas and kind of be able to live life, especially my twin sister being the same age as each other, we've been able to kind of grow and figure out life together, and having two phenomenal parents kind of help us give us the opportunity. Like, for example, even with sports, my dad was my coach for soccer every year during, travel. And anytime below high school, my dad was the basketball coach and the soccer coach every single year. And he would come to every single game, no matter what he had going on with work. And I think I've instilled that in my mind where I'm just like, I want to do that for my kids. And I think the natural path to like do that really, really well is own your own business or be highly leveraged in the work that you do where you can take time off. So I think that's been a big factor. And then having, an absolute rock of a mother to kind of keep the family together has definitely helped, because at the end of the day, it's like you're doing all of this. You kind of get to a point in entrepreneurship where at the beginning you might be doing it for yourself, but then you kind of look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm doing this not just for me, but I'm doing it or for the people around me that I care about. And, being able to be like, even the small things like picking up dinners, like when my family's out, or like picking up lunches or getting a nice gift and doing all that stuff brings me a lot more joy than if I went to dinner by myself or I bought myself something. Like almost giving back to the people that gave you what you have now, I think is one thing that's been a big prominent factor. Kind of quote unquote getting successful, still have a long way to go, obviously, but kind of getting me to where I am today has been kind of the family roots and then the support system I've had along the way.
Incredible. I love to hear that, man. In terms of, I know you talked about having kids a little bit. Is there like a set age that you want to do that, or is it just, is it order of for me? It's like order of operations, business, wife, kids. Like,
Mhm.
how do you see it?
Yeah, I think um, I personally want to have also a big family just because that's what I grew up with and that's kind of what I've always known. And um, no real, like, time frame. Obviously, the sooner you have kids, like, the more your time you're able to spend with them because 'cause you're not having kids, like, later on, so you get to, like, experience more with them. But no specific timeline. I'd say I'm pretty locked in right now on all of the business stuff, getting, me personally where I wanna be for the next 2, 3, 4 years, where I can be like, I grinded all these years to set myself up for, 30 and onwards, where I can, be the head coach of a soccer team with my sons or go to places or do what it may be. But kind of been locked in on be like, these are the grind years. And it doesn't even feel like grind is so like subjective. Like at the end of the day, it's like me and four other guys in this New York City apartment, like growing businesses. Like it's the best time ever. Like it doesn't feel like work. Like all of it is just like fun and it's exciting, and everyone is going through this together. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to be able to, potentially continue to grow long term.
Is there a number that you want to hit before you start thinking about that other stuff?
I haven't thought about it too much. I'll have to
People are
get back to
always
you on the
people are
number.
always nervous to share it. Um, I think it's, if you want to have like the most impact in the world, you do
Hmm.
need to have a lot of money. I think it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to have an impact without it. Um, just in terms of leverage, like being able to
Right.
sit and think in very long term, long time horizon, helps a lot in terms of impact. I used to be, I used to shy away from it a little bit, but sadly, the number is going to be pretty big. I think,
Hmm. It's
I
good for
think
it to be big. Like that's
it
what you
is.
want. Yeah.
It is, but growing up, you're told not to think that way, really. So
Right.
how do you look at money now versus when you grew up? Did anything change with your relationship with money?
I think I think it's definitely changed a lot since being a business owner and entrepreneur. And I think the biggest mindset shift has been going from job to business owner, where, and what I mean by that is normally in a typical job, you make a fixed amount of money for the year, and that's kind of it. Maybe, some sales jobs you get commission for hard work, yeah, yeah. But vast majority of jobs, they have a set salary for the entire year. No matter how much work they put in, they're going to get paid this much. And I definitely, when I was younger, I definitely had the framework of where like budgeting I'll use as a loose word, but budgeting for kind of like the long term, because you're going to be have a fixed amount of money. One of my favorite books that I've read very recently in the last 6 months. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's called Die with Zero.
Mm-mm.
Phenomenal book. But the whole premise of the book is basically spend your money on memories and trips and all that good stuff, and don't kind of worry about not don't not worry about the long term, but the most leveraged things that you can spend your money on are from like ages 25 to 34. And being an entrepreneur and business owner, you have to almost think that like next year I'm going to make more, then 2 years after I'm going to be making more. So instead of like pinching pennies and like not going and getting like a nicer dinner one night, or going out and getting like Chipotle or whatever and cooking indoors, um, trying not to like penny pinch as much as possible, because you have to be in the mindset of like, this is going to be quote unquote like chump change in 2 years when I'm making X amount more than I am now. So I think my relationship with money has definitely developed over time while being an entrepreneur, and kind of being around a bunch of people that are also business owners and seeing how freely they are with either spending money or what they do with their money has definitely, I think, helped framework the way I look at it.
100%. And those bucket list things or activities that we could spend money
Mhm.
on, those experiences change based on how old you are. So a lot of the times it does make sense to invest in them while you're young. And
Right.
then, when you're older, you can maybe return, but I'm not going to be able to
Mhm.
hike Everest when I'm 80. It's not
Exactly,
going to happen, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah, even this past week, and I was telling you this before, but 9 of us guys were out in Nashville just for the weekend. Like, those are memories that we'll have for the rest of our life, and unfortunately, we probably wouldn't be able to do that when we're 45. So, like, these are the only times to do them, so might as well just act and actually do them.
yeah, we'll talk about those stories offline, but I'm sure that
Oh,
you had a great time.
yeah, we
uh,
had we had a very fun time.
Incredible. In terms of your you mentioned reading and you're
Mhm.
constantly learning. Where do you go to learn, and what does that split look like for you?
Yeah, I try to, this doesn't always happen, but I'm just gonna say it anyways because I'll be transparent about it. In my planner, I always have read 30 minutes per day. That probably realistically happens every 3 or 4 days where I pick up a book and I read for 30, 40 minutes. I think reading is really good to also step away from business and kind of give yourself a mental break. And especially, I mean, you can learn a lot from books. Like I've learned so many, even life books in general, even not directly reading about business, but more life centric books like The Die with Zero. Another great book is Defining Decade, for example, but a bunch of other things that you can learn about life, I feel like do wonders, especially when you're just in the weeds all day about the business, in the numbers, in the data. We need to do this, this. It's good to kind of like zone back and kind of pick up a book. I would also say just learning from other people in the space where I'm building in has been a huge, huge part. Kind of trying to go to my roommates, other resources slash other people that we know that have either gone through the same thing or have, golden nuggets that they can give to us where it'd be like, all right, we can operate this in the business. We shouldn't do this in the business. But I think it's a mix of the people you know and the people you surround yourself with, and then kind of the literature and kind of what you do in your free time.
Very well said. You're very well spoken. How old are you? 26?
25. Thank you.
Incredible. I just turned 27 earlier this year. But Ryan, I think this has been great. Where can people find you, and connect with you after?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. It's just my first dot last name on Instagram. So it's Ryan.Bartkiewicz on Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I will get back to it as soon as possible, whether that be 24 or 48 hours. But yeah, that's kind of the primary spot if you want to connect or find me.
Incredible. Ryan, thank you for coming on, and I'll see you in New York very soon,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I'm telling you, come to New York, bro.
I will. All right. Thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you, Owen. Yes, sir.